Who are the Anunnaki? So in my video that I posted about the fact that Satan doesn't exist, and I broke down what the term Satan comes from, this young man asked the question that I'm saying that Enki and Enlil never existed, that there hasn't been visitation of the earth by interplanetary people, and that the intervention that they did not present themselves, they did not have genetic intervention as far as the development of mankind in the Garden of Eden never existed. What I'm saying is that those are just stories that the Sumerians told, and those situations supposedly happened 3,000 to 4,000 years prior to the ones who told the story or telling the story. So there is very little to no evidence of Enki, Enlil, Inanna, Ishtar, any of these Anunnaki ever existing in the sense that the Sumerians discussed them. It is my position that these more than likely were pre-Earth civilizations prior to the Younger Dryas flood. And let me explain that for a second. You see, if you have a civilization that is thriving, and let's say the land of Mu and the land of Lemuria and Atlantis actually existed 50,000 years ago, then in and around 50,000 years ago and prior, these civilizations flourished around the earth and were in connection with each other around the earth, and they were fully developed around the earth. And they had flying machines and other technologies to which we are rediscovering today. But then around 50,000 years ago, you have the beginnings of an ice age, and this ice age lasted until about 9,000 years ago. Now, during the process of this ice age and this freezing of the earth, civilization would have diminished greatly except in your subtropical, tropical, equatorial areas. These would have been the only places of their survival. And since most people still today live more coastal, those civilizations would have been more coastal as well. Now, at the end of the Younger Dryas, there's a time frame called the Younger Dryas, and the Younger Dryas freeze is about 15,000 years ago, when the earth was warming, but all of a sudden a deeper freeze happened. And that deeper freeze lasted for about 3,000 to 5,000 years, 6,000 years. But at the end of it, what we've discovered is that a rapid melting of the ice occurred in and around about a week time frame. And it rose sea levels by 400 feet. Now, for those civilizations that did survive this ice age, those sea level rising at 400 feet happening within a week would have been an extinction level event for the most part. That the overwhelming majority of people living during that time frame would have suffered. Now, those who were able to survive, because during the longer ice age period, civilization became isolated again, detached from one another again, what you would have is people forgetting about their worldwide connection. And we can see this demonstrated in our own history that we have when we look at the fact that people knew that people were in Africa, but then over time, the Europeans forgot people were in sub-Saharan Africa. They forgot people were in the Americas. They forgot people were in India. The people in the Indus Valley forgot that there were people in Africa. The people in Africa forgot that there were people in Europe because there was a loss of communication and connection with those people. So a rediscovery occurred between the peoples in and around that medieval time frame, and then into the age of discovery. So it is feasible to believe and understand that when you go through a 50,000 year ice age or a 45,000 year ice age, that people who were living in an advanced society would lose that connection with the rest of the world and believe that they were the only ones in existence. And then when you have that flash flood of the Younger Dryas flood, where sea levels rose 400 feet and most of their lands becoming underwater societies at that time frame and being utterly destroyed, that those people would have not had connection with the people of Kim, with the people in the Levant or anywhere else in the world, which is where you get a lot of your stories of Thoth coming from Atlantis and meeting the people of Kim and then restarting civilization there. People going to Samaria and restarting civilization there, where you get your Inky and Enlil stories. People coming to the Americas with the Aztecs and the restarting of their civilization, where you get your Kukulkan and not Montezuma, but Quetzalcoatl stories. So all over the world, you have these stories of people coming and restarting civilization, and these will be the ones who survived this Ice Age time frame. And they may have named them Enki, Enlil, may have named them Thoth or Heru, or Thothme, and all these other names, Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan, all these different names which have been rendered based on what those people who had survived this Ice Age and this deluge determined them to be. And since they had greater advanced technologies, they were thought of to be gods, when in truth they were just human civilizations, or earth civilization I should say, that existed prior to. Now, did they have anything to do with the change in man's genome? There is some scientific evidence that demonstrates that our genetic code has been manipulated artificially. Does that make their story true? Possibly. The fact that they say that there were fights in heaven with airplane type vehicles, possibly. But did they come from another planet? That's the stretch. That's the stretch. Because man, around from 9,000, 12,000 to 9,000 BCE, as we can demonstrate with Quran Tepe and Gobekli Tepe, that they looked to the stars. With the Minoan Society and the Croton Society, that they looked to the stars, the Kemetic Society looked to the stars and believed that there were beings who represented those stars, represented those planets, that their seeing of craft coming out of the sky could have assumed that they came from those stars, and then developed these transgalactic deities that came from these different planets and stars and so on and so forth. Because at that time frame, technology and knowledge being lost, they didn't understand anymore how rain happens, how earthquakes and volcanoes happen, how floods happen. So they attributed these things to these deities. And these previous civilizations just simply took advantage of the lack of knowledge of these people, in the same way an adult can take advantage of the knowledge of a child. Let me give you an example. For many years, and I know this is some dad stuff, for many years, I convinced my children that when it was raining really hard, that there were tens of thousands of birds so high up in the sky, and they were spitting on them, and that they need to come in the house. Because I unwittingly taught my children to go outside, and we played in the rain. But it was difficult getting them little jokers to come inside from the rain. So I just jokingly told them that there were birds spitting on them. And so when it started raining hard, my kids would run in the house telling us, the birds are spitting, the birds are spitting. And today it is a joke, because they've grown up in a world where we understand the technology of where rain comes from. So it's a joke between us now. But when they were children, they easily accepted this. So as adults, when they saw flying machines, they believed they were coming from the heavens. When Cortez came across the horizon to the Aztecs, they believed it was the return of Quetzalcoatl, because they said that Quetzalcoatl will come in shining garment, that he will come from the sky. And if you've ever seen a boat coming over the horizon, it looks like it came from the sky to the sea and then to meet them on the shores. And so they were confused for just long enough for Cortez to take advantage of the situation. So did Enlil and Enki and them exist? Possibly. Were they gods or from other planets? Unlikely. So what are your thoughts? Y'all have a great day. And remember always, you must free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.